Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. May peace be upon you. This is Edward Ahmed Mitchell welcoming you to today's segment on Muslim Network TV. I hope all of you are doing well. As you all know, this is a very big week in Washington, D.C. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, came to town. He was warmly embraced by President Biden. He received a state dinner. He spoke to a joint session of Congress. And amid all that, obviously, human rights groups, Muslim organizations, and others were deeply concerned and offended by Mr. Modi's presence and the red carpet rolled out for him because of the horrific things that he has done and is doing in India. How did the community respond to what the president and Congress did? Why was he so warmly welcomed? What does this mean for the future of India and the relations in the region? To discuss all this, I want to bring on our special guest, Brother Raqib Hameed Naik, who is a Kashmiri journalist and the founder of Hindutva Watch, a research project that documents the rise of Hindutva nationalism and the persecution of various religious minorities in India. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Raqib. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, brother, for those who may have been living under a rock and don't know what happened this week, tell us a bit about Mr. Modi's visit, the response he got from the executive branch in our country. Tell us a bit about what happened.
So earlier this week, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Hindu nationalist leader with the Bharatiya Janata Party, the government that is in power in India right now, was on a official state visit. It was his first official state visit, and there were two things actually included in that were of the main prominence. One was his address to the joint session of Congress, and then another was a state dinner at the White House. And it's mostly reserved for foreign dignitaries, top officials who share a very close relationship with the United States. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi landed in the U.S. on 21st. He did yoga in the lawns of United Nations, and then on the other day, 22nd, that is yesterday, he was in D.C., where he addressed the joint session of Congress, which was, of course, boycotted by a few congresspersons. And then he had a dinner at the White House. And he's still in the U.S., and he's supposed to leave tomorrow. And today he's meeting a lot of these CEOs and executives to promote trade and business with India.
You're an expert on Hindutva extremism. Who is Narendra Modi? Why is this so concerning, and why has this been so concerning to human rights organizations, activists, democracy activists? Who is Modi, and why is this visit so troubling to you?
Modi is a textbook case of fascism. He under his rule since 2014, when he came to power in India, there has been a huge surge in persecution of religious minorities, particularly 200 million Muslims, which is almost seven times the population of Canada, and two-thirds population here in the United States. So, of course, a significant portion of humanity. And under his watch, whatever democracy, whatever crumbs of democracy were still left in India, it has been effectively reduced to a completely authoritarian country. There is ongoing crackdown on civil society, critics, journalists, and also an unprecedented crackdown on Kashmiris in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So, inviting him to the U.S. as on a state visit by President Biden is extremely problematic and quite dangerous at the same time as well, because giving him a platform to whitewash his image, giving him platform to spread his propaganda and kind of deny that reality of persecution of minorities in India is extremely dangerous, not just for the United States as a strategic partner in the region, but also for more than 200 million Muslims, Christians, and other oppressed caste communities who are facing this persecution on almost daily basis. For United States, and I sometimes just wonder, why would U.S. consider India under Modi's rule as a counter to China or a strategic ally in the region, when the country itself is literally at the verge of a kind of a civil war, because when you have this 80% majority population actually demonizing, otherwising, ghettoizing 14% of the population, then it means that country is highly unstable. And as President Obama yesterday said in an interview with CNN, it was clear from his remarks, and he is the former president of the United States 2 times. And when he says something, that comes with deep analysis and understanding of the issue. So what's happening in India and what's going to happen in future in India should concern almost everyone. And for that sake, I think it is the moral duty of the President of the United States to raise these issues of minority persecution, this Hindu radicalization. It should be raised with the top officials of the Indian government, with Prime Minister himself. And this was, I think, a great opportunity for President Biden to publicly hold him accountable, to publicly press him on the issues that are currently ongoing back home in India. But unfortunately, President Biden and the broader top American leadership stayed quiet, silence, like, a deafening silence. And yeah, that's what happened the whole day yesterday. There were protests in DC, there were people on the streets, Indian Americans, allies, white people, African Americans on the street, calling on Biden to raise his voice, to highlight these issues, these pertinent human issues related to human rights and religious freedom with Narendra Modi, but he didn't.
What do you think, Raqib, the impact of this will be in India? Does the fact that Mr. Modi was so warmly embraced by the United States, by the president, without any real pushback, could that contribute to more violence and discrimination in India? Will Mr. Modi feel emboldened to unleash even more attacks on minorities, or the opposite? Might he be, I don't know, more willing to crack down on some of the violence that's happening so that he can continue to maintain a good relationship? What's your view on what this could mean for the future of what's happening in India?
So I think it's going to have a twofold impact. First is, for sure, he's going to use this whole trip to bolster his image back home, like, tell his people, his base, that, hey, look, I have brought India to the global stage. See, I was invited to the White House. I delivered a speech in the U.S. Congress. So everyone is going before India because, see, where we have brought the country to, but they don't realize, the base, that is just U.S. By doing this, U.S. is just trying to achieve its strategic objectives in the region. But what Modi is going to do is he's going to get political mileage out of it. That's number one. And second, yesterday so it was an unprecedented press conference. Of course, I would say not unprecedented, because there was just one question asked on Prime Minister Narendra Modi had agreed with President Biden that he would hold a press conference on a condition that only one question be asked by a U.S. journalist and one by the Indian. So the Indian journalist, again, that's the oligarch-controlled propaganda media. They asked about climate change, but a journalist from the Wall Street Journal asked about the persecution of minorities in India, the question on human rights. And what he did was he started giving a lecture on democracy, that democracy is the DNA of India. And this is the whataboutery he uses, this denialism he uses to whitewash his crimes against humanity, because that's what they're doing, like using the word democracy, yoga, chai, spirituality, Mahatma Gandhi, to brutalize minorities. And that denial would actually echo on the ground in India with the Hindu far right, because for them from PM Modi, it's kind of an endorsement of what they are doing. It would literally embolden them to do what they are doing with religious minorities. So it is going to have impact on the ground, because they know that they have the man on the top who is going to watch their back.
Question: how do you think this ends for Mr. Modi? Is there any possibility, based on political dynamics in India, that his party could lose an upcoming election, that he could lose power, or does it look like he has managed to entrench himself there for the indefinite future?
I see this question coming up a lot of time during the interviews I do with the media. But one thing I would want to kind of point out here is the fact that what we are facing right now in India is not political, it's ideological. The challenge we have here is not Narendra Modi. We have Hindutva as an ideology, this toxic ideology. If you take Narendra Modi out of the power, there's going to be another Modi even worse than him. So what has happened in India, this base that brings Modi to power, of course it's going to dwindle, but I don't think there's going to be much dent on his popularity, on his voter base in the upcoming election as well, because he has that base that is Islamophobic to the core, that hates Muslims, that hates Christians, that hates Dalits, and a core that wants him as a prime minister, because for them he is the Hindu king who taught Muslims a lesson in 2002. What happened in Gujarat 2002 for Modi, it's not something that he is that's not something for him that is kind of a stain. It's literally like a trophy for him. He walks around with that trophy of 2,000 Muslims, Muslim bodies are always with him whenever he goes to rallies, addresses people, because that's what people see him for, that he's the only man in India who taught Muslims a lesson, and we need to bring him back time and again. And I strongly believe, and you can mark my words on this show, that Modi is going to come back to power in 2024.
We shall see. Allah knows best, but we're happy to see there are activists, journalists, and others who are tracking what's happening, raising their voices in the hope that something horrible can be averted, that I think everyone's concerned about happening in India. So
yeah,
go ahead, please.
Yeah. I think, see, that's what I believe, that the international pressure is must. That's why I believe I'm not someone like, who believes in change is going to happen from outside. Of course, it's going to happen inside. There are people on the ground who are resisting this regime, who are resisting Hindutva as an ideology. There are Hindus within India who are resisting this ideology. But the problem is they are able to win elections because they have that strong base. They manipulate, they rig the whole electoral system into their favor. And they have done that after coming to power in 2014. Very strongly. So I think there is this huge responsibility on the shoulders of international community, whether be it civil society, whether be it different governments. They need to step up and speak about it and pressure India to make sure that they take measures to safeguard, to protect their minorities, to promote harmony, and not sow these seeds of division and hatred.
We will see if anyone steps up and does that in the future, God willing. Thank you, Brother Raqib, for joining us and for your efforts and your work on this very important issue. I know you've come under threat and attacks, frivolous lawsuits because of your journalism, and so we wish you well, and we thank you for staying on this. We'll talk to you again soon, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching today's segment. We appreciate it. Again, please continue to track this issue of what's happening to our brothers and sisters in Kashmir and in India, and Muslim Network TV will do the same, inshallah. We'll see you next time. Have a wonderful Arafat, a wonderful Eid. May Allah accept it from you and your families. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you.